Question number 3. Nej. Capture. Record video. Introduction. Question number 1. Tell something about you. At the age of 16, an awakening began with my growing interest for light beings and their channeled messages. I felt close to their information and distant from what I was being taught in school and around me from the 21st century system. Question number 2. Were you taught about spirituality and awareness from birth? No, I was on autopilot for the first 16 years of my life, being unable to think for myself, having no answers and no questions, unaware of what was going on if it wasn't happening around me or in my life, while living a normal life with lots of love surrounding me. Question number 3. Did you undergo a dark night of the soul? Yes, I almost left this plane of existence because of the overwhelmingly kind of information, the conundrum that was or is my awakening part. I guess you can call it the dark night of the soul. The worst of it was a long period of my life. The conundrum, the complex problem that hadn't had no clear solution, drove me to heights of understanding which I wasn't prepared for. Question number 4. Could you elaborate the word illusion? Illusion is a false sense of reality. It applies to basically everything around us. What we perceive as a thing is most probably an illusion. Take for instance the word family. Your definition of family, if it's considered normal, would consist of parents, a mother, a father, grandparents, grandma and grandpas, cousins, pets and close friends. Instead, if we could see past the illusion of our limited understanding of our connection to one another, we would see that we are all interconnected. We share the same ancestors going back hundreds and thousands of generations. Illusions surround us and affect our lives on a daily basis. We are programmed to accept certain things that are an insult towards the whole of humanity, the earth, resources and the animals. The illusion of choice when we vote for a leader of a nation. The illusion of choosing the lesser of evils, while there are those in charge behind the curtains of the show. Illusion of a system, how they take advantage of our inability to think for ourselves, so the system steps in and acts as a main model. Illusion goes beyond the imaginable. Even in the physics, it's considered that all the material that exists throughout the universe would fit in a square centimeter, considering one atom being 99% space. This leads to a spiritual understanding of everything. To penetrate through the illusion, you must have a pure heart and a will to change everything into the positive. The high vibrating frequencies which automatically brings wisdom and understanding. Problems are solved instantly in a higher state of consciousness. Nothing goes unsolved, unriddled, because light brings you joy, understanding, peace, wisdom, and so much love. Dark equals to absence of information and light equals to abundance of information. But we are not taught how to think. We are taught what to think and what to occupy our lives with. We don't have a choice, yet we think we are free. Like someone said, 16 options of ice cream and they think they are free, meaning we don't even want the ice cream, but without the information of what we really want, we feel free to choose what they have laid out for us. Do you think you come from a specific land or from Earth? Is it as in a state, in a land, like Arizona in the US, in the United States, or Paris in France, in Europe? As on a planet in the universe, as in a universe in an even larger unit. Yeah. You see, Europe, the United States, Africa, all continents are just made up names, having made up flags and imaginary boundaries which we see as lines on the map. What I'm going towards is the illusion within an illusion, like a football team with a logo flag, that you wear the colors, or for instance an eagle representing a certain team within a land. It's unreal, it doesn't exist in the real world because it's made by humans for an agenda. It is an illusion, and once you step back and see it for what it is, when you don't participate in it any longer, the earth gains another alchemist, conscious warrior, another rule breaker, another lover of life, another one that is determined to lift each other up and to ensure that love wins. Question number 5. Cooperation with understanding, penetrating the illusions. Yes, sounds really joyful, natural and exciting. Something towards the ways of Lemuria, Atlanta, and Mu, and probably every previous civilization that understood. Question number 6. What about technology and what could be done? This topic is so broad, and anyone could probably think of better solution than oil like wind turbines, water current turbines generating electricity using waterfalls, and there is a wireless electricity which Nikola Tesla rediscovered back in the 1890s. Wireless power is transferred by magnetic fields using inductive coupling between coils of wire, or by electric fields using capacitive coupling between metal electrodes. I give you that in human language. It has been possible for over 100 years for humanity to use a technology based on natural laws of physics to power all electric devices for free of charge. We could probably have flying cars developed by now, or even better, travel the stars. I believe that it is exactly the same technology that was used back in the ancient Egypt and Lemuria and Mu. We are the only species in the universe that paid to live on a planet that we have been born on. Let me repeat that. We are the only species in the universe that paid to live on a planet that we have been born on. We suffer from our absence of knowledge, from our amnesia, from our obedience, just like children are taught to show their parents obedience. Likewise, the system has become our parents, and it has rulers, scriptwriters, manipulators, the heartless. But we have been programmed to be like we are, to accept it. I have a theory about that. Question number 7. What is a programmed being and the unprogrammable? So, here comes my theory. My brain, my receiver and perceiver, troublemaker and trouble solver, is a tool in my vehicle which brings out thoughts into existence. I believe we are alchemists, but with the absence of great knowledge, wisdom and understanding. We manifest more iPhones, over-expensive laptops and trash that will be in the bin within a blink of an eye. If we look at the system as an operative system, just like Linux, Unix or Windows 7, 8 or 10, it has its rules and behaves in such ways and others. It behaves according to if and else, equal to, not equal to, less than, or equal to, greater than, or equal to, file exists and is not empty, file exists and is not a directory exists, file is writable, file is executable, file is readable. Those are just computer language laws, and we have our book of laws written by people. My point is, in our vehicle, look, my point is, in our vehicle, the receiver and perceiver have an operative system installed from birth, if and else. It only depends on what data you put in the can, how you write a human being's perception of reality, the language, the system. It is corrupt, our system. Therefore, when the unprogrammable soul sends some kind of message or a vibration, like when you get a feeling something is wrong, or everything is wrong, and you question yourself, why is everything wrong? We don't allow ourselves to think about the situation we're in. We merely just accept it because of certain consequences of the sequences that were the writing script of our upbringing. We are programmed not to go to the source of all of our problems and its relations. because it's hidden. It's right in front of our eyes, but it's hidden in our INI file or CFG configuration file, so that we don't find out that we have rulers. The soul can't be manipulated, hacked or programmed, at least on a level where we get corrupted towards each other. What I mean is it maybe can be hacked by like master scientists or what they are called from the Canadians. Question number 8. Lemuria, Mu and Atlantis. Tell me. The official story goes that in 360 BC, Plato wrote about Atlantis in his dialogues called Timaeus and Critias. Together the dialogues are a festival speech prepared by Plato to be told on the day of the Panatheia in honor of the goddess Athena. They describe a meeting of men who had met the previous day to hear Socrates describe the ideal state. According to the dialogues, Socrates asked 3 men to meet him on this day: Timaeus of Locri, Hermocrates of Syracuse, and Critias of Athens. Socrates asked the men to tell him stories about how ancient Athens interacted with other states. The first to report was Critias, who told how his grandfather had met with the Athenian poet and lawgiver Solon, one of the 7 sages. Solon had been to Egypt, where priests had compared Egypt and Athens and talked about gods and legends of both lands. One such Egyptian story was about Atlantis. According to the Egyptians, or rather what Plato described, Critias reporting what his grandfather was told by Solon, who heard it from the Egyptians. Once upon a time there was a might power based on an island in the Atlantic Ocean. This empire was called Atlantis, and it ruled over several other islands and parts of the continents of Africa and Europe. And so war breaks out between Atlantis and the Athens. Athens win triumphing over the invading Atlantic forces, defeating the enemy, preventing the free from being enslaved, and freeing those who had been enslaved. After the battle, there were violent earthquakes, floods, and Atlantis sank into the sea, and all the Athenian warriors were swallowed up by the earth. And his story. Lemurians were supposed to be into light according to lost teachings. The spiritual path was as normal for them as we are aware of McDonald's, video games, porn, or something normal like mindless shopping. Mu was, according to some researchers, the lost continent, motherland of man. It's where man was created some 200 to 270,000 years ago. But I don't believe it was the birthplace geographically. I mean, climate changes are frequent. Ice age 10,000 to 20,000 years ago over the US and Europe, so Africa and where supposedly Mu, Lemuria and Atlantis were located were geographically and environmentally stable and could sustain life at that time. Mu's abilities: advanced civilization and technology, monumental construction, global sailing skill, or floating on air, I believe. No segment of population lacked food or shelter. Life on Mu: literate and well-read, relaxed, unhurried lifestyle, superior quality goods, not doing it for profit for chosen ones, but for all. Plethora of different foods available around the world. They weren't stuck with local food. They could get prune juice across the sea if they wanted to. Mu, like Atlantis, like Lemuria, was brought down because of catastrophes, ice melting, water levels rising, land appearing to sink down underwater. But from another point of view, it's the usual happening over and over. We get in touch with ourselves, with the nature, and everything floats and it gets flushed, and we forget about everything, and we suffer from the absence of light. Some use our ignorance against us, and eventually it gets flooded. Majority ceases to exist and Earth goes on. Peopling, species, and doing works of wonder. Just imagine dates. What other fruit has there been and will be? Question number 9. the indigenous wisdom and 50,000 years of living in harmony with Earth. The Native Americans talks about the spirit, the ways of nature and living accordingly. It is of no benefit to the greedy, egoistic ways of the system to be aware of life itself, to keep in touch with nature, to gain wisdom, knowledge and truth, living in harmony with everything. The seeds and plants and fruits are willing to give us everything that we need to survive. Alas, or should I say, unfortunately, we have had bad teachers, even if it's not their fault. They also had bad teachers teaching about nothing at all, pointless lessons about pointless ways of the system. Of course, we bonded with some of the teachers, associating them with positive light vibrations, but with the absence of real light. They wanted to get through to you, but it was a situation like, kindly let me help you or you will drown, said the monkey putting the fish safely up a tree. It is said that the natives lived in harmony with how they would name Earth Mother Earth for plus 50,000 years. You get the point? If we were taught in schools about civilizations before ours, living in harmony, being aware of things that matters, just imagine for a second if you all cooperated on a global scale. No wars because no one is greedy, because we got everything in abundant quantities. I don't know how we lost the connection. Exciting times. Question number 10. Cooperation versus competitiveness. The answer should be easy floating, in a place without gravity, like a glowing red hot knife through butter. As simple as 1 plus 1 equals 1. As deep as the Library of Alexandria. As original as the Vedic literature. As pure as the heart of an angel. As angelic as Lucifer, the light bearer. So bright that a blind man begins seeing. Clear as crystal and true like the tales on the great exoplanets told by ganja smokers. Like a stone on water, in a place with 100 times the gravity. Like a cotton knife trying to cut diamond. As complicated as talking to the opposite sex about stuff and the right one. I mean, someone who is interested in the same stuff. As shallow as the news you get from the mainstream, as fake as the food Monsanto is feeding us with, as corrupt as a president, as demonic as the ways of the system and its rulers, so dark that where no man can see, the one-eyed man has advantage. As cloudy as the smoke through a glass pipe from 100 cigarettes, and false like the tales from the politicians on the screens written by the rulers. Food being very important, it drives the vehicle. If the right foods are chosen in the diet, you won't get sick. We are not supposed to get sick. Like Dr. Sebi said, does a zebra need a doctor? No. The medicinal and health knowledge is being lost. We have moved into the cities and installed their way of living. One generation break in oral teaching by our ancestors, and 50,000 years of accumulated medicinal knowledge is gone. Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. Archimedes, 431 lat przed Chrystusem. Check out Dr. Sebi and John Rose here on YouTube for food information. Check out Alan Watts for more teachings, and check out Aldous Huxley and Terence McKenna for great information. Thank you.